Hey everybody, it's George here. So the survival skill that I decided to learn this summer semester was wood carving. And so the book I used is right here, Bushcraft Whittling. You might wonder what whittling is, supposed to carving. And whittling is just wood carving, but you're using only a knife. And the bushcraft part of this title comes in through you're out in the bush and you're finding whatever you can to craft stuff. And so, since it's bushcraft, you might want to bring some tools along with you, even besides a knife, to get wood and make it into a workable form. So, you might want to bring a hatchet along with you, cut some wood down, break it up a bigger piece into a smaller one, or also a saw. So, you can saw it. I sawed this piece right here to make it easier to work on and to do a technique that I'll show you in a little bit. And so yeah, the most important part though, obviously, if you're wood carving, is to have a knife. You could use a knife like this, where it comes in a sheath, and pull it out. The one problem with this knife is it's a bit long, and also it has two edges, which isn't ideal for wood carving, for something I'll show you in a second too. But it has a sheath, and that'll keep it sharp, and that's really good. Or you can have a knife like this where it flips out and it acts as its own sheath, so it'll keep itself sharp. And it's small, and it has one dull side, one edge side. And so that will allow you to push with your thumb, so you can put your thumb on the back of it, and when you're carving, put the thumb on the back, and it'll allow you to put some more force in there and carve. I just made those little fine shavings right there. And so yeah, one of the most important parts of wood carving is having a sharp knife. If your knife is really dull, it will make it really, really hard to carve anything. And so you could be a professional and you could have your whetstone and your sandpaper and your strop, but carving like that is really a skill into itself, and it takes a lot of practice. So I did not take the time to learn that. I instead just have this little handheld carver right here, where you put your blade in here, you run it through. There's the honing side. Run it through a couple times. Get your nice sharp knife. If your knife is really broken beyond repair, and it's really, really dull, this will not help you. You will need to professionally sharpen it. But you know, if your knife, like you just used it a couple times, it's gone a little dull, you can sharpen it up with this right here. And so now we get into the carving itself. You have your stick. Safety in carving is really important because you're working with a knife, so this is always going to be dangerous no matter what you're doing. And for that reason, you want to make sure when you're carving, you hold it out in front of your knees, and you keep your fingers and your limbs out of the way, so you're not at risk of cutting yourself. You never want to rest the stick on your leg and try to carve, because if you cut your leg, you can bleed out really easily. And if you're going to cut yourself, you would rather want it to be on your hand. You're not trying to cut yourself, but you know, stuff happens. And you won't bleed out from cutting your hand. Yeah, so some carving techniques are just the normal, I don't even know if this has a name, but yeah, I mean, you just cut forward. You might find that it can be hard to cut like that, so instead of just going forward, you might want to slice with your knife, and you might see that takes a little less power. You can carve through it easily. Another technique is, this is why it was important to dull the edge of this earlier, is you press it into your chest and you cut towards yourself. Now, if you've ever used a knife before, you've always been taught not to cut towards yourself. So this seems kind of dangerous, and it does look dangerous, but the special part about this cut is the way you're holding it. Even if you jam the knife towards you, your hand is going to hit your chest before the blade does, so you're perfectly safe as long as you have your hand in front of it and you keep your other arm out of the way. So you can cut perfectly fine like this and not cut yourself. Another one is a thumb cut, or I think it's called a paring cut, where you put your thumb on the edge like here and you bring the knife towards yourself. This is good for some delicate work, but it can be kind of dangerous if you're doing it wrong. So you want to make sure that your thumb is low And even if your knife comes off the edge, my thumb is under it, so my thumb will not get cut. That one requires a little bit more technique, so I'd be really careful if you try that one out. The last cutting technique that I know is this might be the parent cut. I need to go over my names again. But you put a score in here, you put a score into your stick, and then you cut towards it. Do I have one? No, I don't. I should have put one in here. It kind of takes a little bit. But you put a nice little score in there, and then when you cut now, your knife is going to stop at that score, and it'll allow you to, like this part right here, you can create a flat part. It can help you control your blade so it isn't just flying past you when you cut. And then this flat part can be good, say if you're trying to balance something on there. This is an ideal example, but if you have something that's kind of U-shaped, you could balance it on there. It's a good thing to put another stick on to balance it, and it's not rolling around on a round stick. And so some of the things you can make with wood carving, obviously this one isn't very imaginative, but a pointy stick, you know, this one has two heads, so you could use it as a little fork, put some marshmallows on here, go roast it over a fire. You could use it as a tent stake, go hammer it into the ground, put your rope and the little hook right here. I've learned that it's good to use a two-pronged fork rather than just like a stake if you're balancing it over, because if you're balancing something that's just one, it can kind of just turn over however it wants. But if you have at least two prongs on your fork, it won't turn. This one can't turn. It'll sit here just like this. This isn't the best example because I tried to find a better stick, but sometimes it's just the luck of the draw. You won't find a good stick for what you're trying to make, so you just gotta do with what you got. So yeah, those are some applications for a nice pointy stick. And another one is making a fire starter. So I made this one before I started recording, where you just get a bunch of fine shavings on your stick, and these light really quickly. So I just put the fire on there for a second and it goes ablaze. The longer your strands are and the more of them you have, the longer it will light. I just had a couple on here. Even though it was just a couple, it's going on for kind of a long time. So that's a really good way to make a fire starter. Another thing I learned is you definitely want to use a dry stick. Most of the sticks you find on the ground, they're probably going to be a little damp. I actually did find this one on the ground and it was very dry. But so if you find a stick on a tree and you're trying to see if it's dead and dry, so say this was on a tree, you try to break it off. If it just snaps off, that's a dry stick. You can burn this all you want. If you try to break the branch off a tree and it bends, that means it's damp. So you wouldn't want to use that one. And so these are some of the things I learned about wood carving. I hope you enjoyed my video. I've had a great summer class with you guys. I've really enjoyed it. So thank you. Signing out. Bye-bye.